Alright, call this meeting to order. Roll call, Council at Large Newt.
Here.
At Large Spear.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Leaper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
Ward number 3 McNeil. Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, to the agenda, I've been asked to have number 9 in new business be tabled for our next meeting, for the HBK contract on the pool. So then, if no one has any objections, there's a motion to approve the agenda with that change. Spear with the first and McNeil with the second.
McNeil. Booth.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
All right, to communications. We don't have anyone scheduled, so if anyone would like to address the council, you can make your way to the podium, state your name and address. Seeing that there are none, we will close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. These can be enacted with one motion, and they consist of the city council minutes from March 18th, the development director's report from March 2019, library minutes from February 2019, library director's report from February 2019, and the claims list. Is there any on these that need to be pulled out? Seeing there isn't, is there a motion to pass? McNeil with the first and Leeper with the second.
Booth.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
To old business, which is, this is ordinance number 568. It is the zoning regulations and districts and boundaries that would add blade signs, and this is the third reading.
Right. Your last meeting, you passed the first two readings. With this being the final one, I wanted to let you know that we briefly discussed this at the last Development Commission meeting, and one of the proposals that may be coming is to have DRIP funds available, such as, no, this isn't final, this is just an example, but have DRIP funds available as a grant to encourage the use of blade signs, such as a 1-to-1 match up to a cap of $500 in order to make those areas a little bit more visible as people are passing by. So upon publication, this will be effective.
Any other questions or anything about the blade sign ordinance? Seeing there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Leeper with the first and Anderson with the second.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Booth.
Yes.
All right, so now moving on to new business. The first one, which is a resolution setting the time and place for a public hearing for the purpose of soliciting written and oral comments on the city's proposed fiscal year 18-19 budget amendment. Melissa.
This is just requesting the budget amendment so that I can publish it for our May 6th council meeting. Some of the things that are in this budget amendment that were major items that were covered included crack sealing and asphalt overlay on some of the streets, connecting the Economic Development Office to the city wireless, DRIP expenses that went over budgeted items, the wastewater treatment plant engineering expenses. We received an SRF allocation for that, but that is included in the budget amendment, and new positions in the electric and public works, and then additional legal expenses.
Just to make a brief comment, this type of amendment, especially at this time of the year, is very common. You know, when this budget was made out, or was when the heart of it was worked on, it was February of last year. And so when you get to a period that's nearly a year and a half later, or as the year plays out, there are things that come up that weren't anticipated in this case, February of 2018. So this is a very common thing that happens, and it's almost an annual thing.
Alright, so it'll be May 6th, 5:30, here at the fire station. That'll be the time and place. Is there a motion to approve that time and place?
So moved.
Boots with the first and Leeper with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
The second one, which is a resolution accepting the fiscal year 17-18 annual audit.
One thing that I wanted to talk about in the 17-18 annual audit that we did receive the finding for was the debt covenants for the electric fund revenues. We were not in compliance with the debt covenants because of our one-time expenses for the engine repairs. And the way the auditors calculate that is a formula that does not include transfers in. So essentially, there is no way to correct that if there are one-time expenses that come up, emergency things that come up that are not in the budget, aside from halting all operations, which isn't very realistic. So it's actually quite common, according to our auditors, and we did reach out to Spear Financial and to our bond attorneys, and they both agreed with us that those one-time expenses should have been removed from the calculations, which would have made us in compliance, but because of the way it was written, it's kind of based on interpretation, and the auditors didn't feel that that was enough to be able to remove those one-time expenses. So that is why that finding is in there. Aside from that, there were no significant differences from prior years.
Alright, does anybody have any questions for Melissa?
And Melissa, you said that is something that we would remedy by making a change in the.
And I would say in future years, that could be something where we could adjust the way where the expenses are received, or it's something that we can, when we're creating the debt covenants, we can put that in there, that one-time expenses should be removed out, so that when this would come up again, that wouldn't be used in the formula.
Alright. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leeper with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Alright, so number 4, which is a resolution accepting a bid for the 29, no wait, I skipped one. We're on number 3, which is a resolution accepting a bid from Roth Electric for the Tipton Downtown Alley Underground Conversion Project.
Yeah, for this project, we mentioned at the public hearing on the plans and specs that the engineer's estimate for this portion of the project was $120,000. We had 3 bids come in. The low was Roth Electric. They bid $59,791 on the base bid. And this is mainly, their part of it is to relocate meters on the inside of buildings. The Tipton Electric Utility is work out in the alley, not on the customer side of the meter. The bids included an alternate which acted as a deduct, which would allow the contractor to use a non-rigid pipe inside the building rather than a rigid pipe, which is being used on the outside of the buildings. And so Roth, in their bid, proposed a deduct of $10,000, and that is the recommendation, that you take Roth's low bid and alternate 1 for the deduct, with the final cost then being $49,791.00.
Any questions for Brian or Floyd? Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So
Anderson with first and Boots with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
Alright, so number 4, I was just excited about street improvement project. A resolution accepting a bid for the 2019 street improvement projects, which would be West 6th and 7th Street, West 4th Street, and Sycamore Street, or all of the above, right?
Yeah, and the bids came in very close between the two low ones, and both were significantly under the engineer's estimate. The Division 4, as the mayor said, was all of the above. The engineer's estimate was just over $350,000. Eastern Iowa Excavating, they're out of Cascade, came in at $294,922.05. LL Pelling was within $200 of them. But as it happens, Eastern Iowa's paving contractor, their sub, is LL Pelling, so in a way they both win. Kind of unusual, but that's how they went about bidding it. So the recommendation is to take Eastern Iowa Excavating. One thing to think about, though, as we move forward, is for this project, the engineer's estimate again was about $55,000 more than what the bid came in at. And then on top of that, the very most preliminary engineering estimate we were working with when we set up the budget, the CIP for the street projects, came to be $385,000. So we do have about $90,000 more available that we budgeted than what this bid calls for us to use. So we checked with the city attorney just to look into, you know, whether or not it's problematical to add a major change order that might involve something up to $95,000. They didn't find a problem, especially since the next low bidder is working on the project anyway. So we're in the process of trying to identify areas that could be added on to this project area, and I think you can expect us to bring back a proposed change order to use some of this funding. You know, one of the main questions, it doesn't have to be answered tonight, though, is to whether to assume the use of the full $90,000 that we originally budgeted and didn't use. But again, we can talk about that in an upcoming meeting.
All right, so is there a motion and for accepting which division on this resolution?
I would make a motion to accept Division 4.
All of the above. All right, Spears made the motion to approve Division 4, all of the above.
Second.
Boots with the second.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right, number 5, which is a resolution setting a public hearing for the 2019 Community Development Block Grant application. Right?
Yeah, this is part of the process that the state requires in order to turn in an application. So at your meeting on this 22nd, I'm expecting Mark Schneider from ECIA to be here because they have a list of items that the state requires us to cover, to at least mention, so that it's in the minutes that you heard it and understand the various rules and requirements. So I'm expecting him to be here next time if this is set. As you'll recall, the maximum project that the state will award is 6 houses, 6 rehab projects of up to $25,000 per home. In order to have the most viable application, the state calls for us to try to have 12 pre-applications go in with our application. I mean, 12 property owners in the target area pre-applying. As of this date, we have 11. So the fact that we don't have 12, I don't think will hurt us. But if we do pick up the 12th or 13th or whatever, we're going to use them anyway, and there's still time to use them. The application deadline, I'm told, is May 4th. So that's why we're targeting the public hearing here for late April.
All right. questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
McNeil with the first, and Leeper with the second?
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear, Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Alright, so number 6, discussion and possible action concerning the future disposition of the city-owned Pondview Acres Second Edition Lot 13. Right?
Yeah, there are probably others that are more familiar with this than me, but as I understand it, back when the Aquatic Center was originally fundraising, there was a donation of a lot in a subdivision that's not far from Wilton that has been owned by the city. The city's paid taxes on it for at least 12 years in the amount cumulatively of $4,824. I was approached maybe a month or two ago by someone acting as a realtor for another person, wondering if the city might be interested in selling a lot. And I inquired with you folks, and it seemed generally like you would be in favor of doing that, so we brought this back tonight. In checking with the city attorney, the statement I made where I recommended an appraisal on the property is something that our attorney seconded. For one reason, the assessed value on the land only for that lot was just over $40,500. The lot next to it, where there's a house, but the assessed value there of the land only for a lot that's virtually the same size is about $7,000 more. So it probably would be the wise thing to do to have it appraised and use that appraisal amount as a base value. So if you, for example, if you run ads to take bids on it, you might want to establish a base amount or minimum bid and then see what comes in. As I understand it, I think the mayor could probably add more, but as I understand it, the people who donated the lot with the intention of it going toward the Aquatic Center project didn't oppose the idea of the proceeds being used for the upcoming repair project there that's now been awarded to Sheets Construction. So that's one possible use that they're okay with. So I guess the question is, would the council like to sell the lot? And again, if you do get a bid or an offer that you're interested in, with it being publicly owned, we would still have to go through the public process of holding a public hearing and then having you act after the hearing is held.
So this motion would contain whether or not to sell the lot,
And how?
yeah, like the minimum price according to the appraisal,
It would authorize an appraisal.
and then could the possibility of directing the money over to the repairs.
Yes.
So
But
that
it,
could be,
you have contingent on public process.
oh yeah. Alright, so McNeil has made the motion to go through all of that. to sell the lot,
Him.
to sell the lot using the public practice and adding the money to the repairs of the aquatic center and using an appraisal as the baseline for the minimum price. Okay, so McNeil made the first, and Leeper with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Alright, so now we are to number 7, which is the discussion of possible action concerning the basic meter charges on utility accounts with multiple meters. Melissa?
This is just a follow-up to our work session, discussion to see if council would like to direct us in a specific way, or if there's any more questions regarding this subject.
So if there is action, I'm looking for a motion that contains bill every meter or just every address, something like that?
Every account.
Yeah, every account, sorry, yeah.
And it would give them
Per
a certain amount of time to consolidate their accounts. And when needed, I assume we'd have to come back with some ordinance language to make each meter subject to that charge.
Right?
I think you'll wanna put a little bit of thought into the landscape meters on the water side, because you don't wanna double down with $13 a month and the $35 per year. You're gonna wanna have one or the other, not both. And you might get a little bit of flack for the $13 per month in the winter months when they're not used at all. So, you may wanna
Could
give
that be,
special consideration to those landscape meters, and you might wanna motion that just a little separately.
That landscape meters only pay the annual fee,
Okay.
they don't get the basic.
So that would be a second ordinance change.
yeah. So would that be held under another ordinance change then?
Yeah, well, whatever, we'd have to check to see how it's worded, but the idea is to hold those harmless from the changes we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Would we follow the ordinance for the electric as it was written?
Pardon?
Would we follow the ordinance for the electric as it was written?
Well, yeah, it would be only for the meters that need to be updated in the way that it's worded for the electric. The electric is already,
Yeah.
yeah,
So then, the possibility of this motion would be something along the lines of have the basic meter charge on every meter except for the landscape, water meters. If that's the way the council wants to go.
was that 10 again?
Motion that.
Yeah.
What he said. Tim with the first on that,
I'll second.
and Spear with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Oops,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Alright, number 8, discussion of possible action concerning barricading the East Fifth Street from Cedar to Meridian for O'Rourke Motors Drive One for your community fundraiser. Linda?
I did this early, so I wouldn't forget. Jerry O'Rourke is planning a drive one for your community for the senior citizens, and asked if we could block Fifth Street from Cedar to Meridian to make it safer. And some of this is gonna be going on with music in the gazebo, and I believe that night, me and Tiara are gonna be seated outside as well, so there'll be a lot going on that night.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions for Linda or anybody else? Is there a motion for this one? Boots with the first. Second. And Anderson with the second.
McNeil, Boots.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Number 9 got tabled, so number 10 is discussion of possible action concerning an increased cost for recycling. Steve?
Well, as you remember, I brought this just up for discussion back in January. At the time, I recall it, and we had a couple of $900 a month recycling charges, and I went back, had Melissa go back and check, and before that, we had a couple that were over 1,000. One was 1,300 a month, or fees up there at Cedar Rapids, so at Republic. The question is, this continues to go, and it's not gonna change much. Clay went up last week to take the truck up, needed to work on it, and he says, you can't believe what's going on up at Republic. The entire area is filled up with recycling, inside, outside, you can't even hardly get to the scale. The whole area is backed up. These recycling charges are gonna continue at this level or get higher because there's no demand for it. And some of it's going to the landfills. So that's a worldwide thing. Tipton, Iowa is a pretty small piece of that. But we have to address the issue that this is costing us, and we can continue to do it. It can happen two ways. We can get a a recycling charge, on our bills, or we can charge more for garbage. I think those are two of the ways to do it. And if we do it with recycling charge, I really think it ought to go across the board. Otherwise, people are gonna stop doing recycling, and then they're gonna do more garbage, which is, costs us more to do garbage than it does recycling. So we're in a kind of a catch-22. We're in a no-win deal here. 4 years ago, it was a great deal. This has changed. So my question for the council is, how do we want to proceed? Any ideas that,
Do you know how many other towns right now do free? I mean, it's not, nothing's free, but the curbside is a courtesy almost that the cities do? Is it just
none
us,
that are
or-
paid for in some fashion? Nothing's free. You're right.
No, but yeah, but as of right now, we don't charge to pick up.
It might not say recycling charge on there, but it's covered by the garbage charge. It costs us, Brian, so much every month to have that driver and that truck on the road and covers the town 2 times every week. So how we divide it up is up to you folks. I don't have any other, I'm a tree guy, but I'm not a money tree guy. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Tim?
We want to put more of it towards the garbage side, maybe 60-40, 75-25, that way people still think they're recycling.
Well, yeah, we don't want to, I don't think we want to
No.
discourage recycling. I just don't know how we address
Like you
that.
said, if you overprice recycling, they'll quit recycling.
They will if they have the option, yeah. I think you're right. I've heard that from people.
I know I was, I'm very disappointed.
I think I heard it from you actually, so that's
Put it all in the garbage.
good. And that's an option. I do have new, bigger garbage cans on the way, so that, I
At
mean,
this
that's,
time, we don't have a charge for recycling on our bill.
we don't have a charge per se for recycling, we never have. We had our garbage, our 35, 64s, and 96s at that level that could absorb it, but keep in mind, we didn't have to, because we were getting paid for it. Now, we did pay for those recycling containers out of garbage. That cost us quite a bit. We probably got, $20,000 worth of recycling containers out there, or 25. So, that's,
Are they hauling everything to Ames then?
I don't have any idea what they're doing.
Making bank?
I don't know, but
Ames is turning it into energy, all the
Are
recycling,
they?
the trash, they just torch it into energy.
I don't know what they're doing, but, and that's the other thing, Republic is really the only player in the game. So, even if you go to the Quad Cities, eventually it's to Republic. So, I think waste management might be a factor in some areas, but not right here.
I think I would like to see us just increase the garbage fee than add another account or have them think they have the option
Right.
to not pay the recycling, because I don't think we want to do that. We don't want to allow an option to not pay that.
That's a good point. We would lose, if we put a recycling charge on, I'm sure we would lose a handful.
Yeah.
We don't have, not everybody recycles in town currently, do they?
I'd have to do a check on that, but initially, I think we started out with about 60% of the people recycling, and I think we're probably, I haven't really calculated, do you know what's off the top?
Percentage?
I think, I'd have to check with the girls, but I think we're probably around 85%. It's become really, well, people can do that, they wanna do it, and there's no additional cost associated, and they don't have to bump up their garbage, can size, so. And it is, I agree, it's the right thing to do. It's just tough to get an end product anymore.
Yeah, it would be nice that it counted for something,
Yeah,
it was worth something.
and maybe there will be a new market come over the horizon. horizon and all this stuff will disappear. We wanna be in the game if that's the case, so. Any other, Ross, what do you feel on this one?
I know that Ames burns it. They have a big turbine up there that
Really?
burns it. I've seen it. You have to put a welder's mask on to look into the thing, it's so hot. And, but they take it all the way up to the top of the tower, the garbage trucks come in
Really?
and dump it, and they fire it off with powdered coal. That's the way it gets started, and then once that's burning, all the trash comes in, and it's so hot, it cannot not burn. And I asked him, I said, how often do you have to clean this out? He says, only once a year.
What? It's hot.
But they shut it down, let it cool down enough that they can get in there, clean the base off, and start all over. And they've been doing that for years, burning it. And you can look outside and you don't see any smoke. It's just heat waves, that's all you see. It's thorough.
And they turn that heat into, is it
To run a
Steam
turbine.
turbine. It's a
Steam
steam
turbine?
turbine.
is it, okay,
Yeah, runs a turbine to generate electricity.
that's, yeah.
And it's an amazing facility, but Ames is a lot bigger city than
I bet you they get a bunch of these, right?
So,
and I don't know where all they get their garbage from, but it, you know, if
Is
it'll,
that recycling and garbage, or just recycling?
at that time, it was garbage, because I said, what's that over there? And it was a Coke can, it was about that high. So it just melted down to almost nothing.
all right, if there are no more questions for Steve, is there a motion one way or the other? To this, Steve, you were recommending the $3.
If we're not gonna do anything with garbage, we need to stay on top of this, a couple dollars across the board, I think. And that would cover it.
It wouldn't be unreasonable to have, they only pick it up every other week
Yeah.
anyway. And so how much do you think it's going to cost?
Well, if we did $2 across the board, that would, $2 a month, that would
Oh,
cover
goodness.
the cost of, that would cover easily what we're paying right now, plus the truck maintenance that is involved with recycling and the driving.
And I cut mine up in smaller pieces so it lays flat, and sometimes I have a load rolling out to the curb, but, you know, to me, that does not sound unreasonable.
And
You have your bins figured in on that too?
Yeah.
Your totes, okay.
$24 a year.
You
I just
waste
hope,
that
I
time.
just hope we don't run into fee for fee, but.
$24 a year?
We used to haul, personally, from the farm, we used to take all of our recycling out of the city. I hated that. Now it's on two wheels and it goes to the curb, I like that, so, but,
Alright.
No, I don't see any problem with that at all. I think that's very fair, very reasonable.
We'd have to come back with an ordinance to affect rates, but.
So this would be to give you guidance.
Yeah, I'd like to involve, finance director in this too, just to make sure that she agrees with the math and everything.
Alright, then, if there is a motion to approve this, it would be for the guidance for
From the ordinance to
drawing up the
affect
ordinance.
rates.
Lieber with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Lieber,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Alright, so now we'll go down to discussion of possible action concerning the approval of a proposal from LL Pelling for seal coating areas in the park and some residential streets.
when we were doing the budget, early on, Brian and I talked, and Melissa too, and we talked about, seal coating the parking area on the east side of the aquatic center that overlooks the soccer field, with the one with the island down the middle. And Pelling came back in February, and that was where we were dumping snow. Pretty hard to measure when it was covered with big piles of snow, and he made a pretty good guess at what we were doing. But then he came back again about a week or so ago for accurate measurements and a better look at the surface that we were dealing with, because that plays into it as well, the patchwork before they do the seal coat. So that's what's in front of you right now. When we got done with that, we went down to, some of you remember a few years ago when we did from 7th Street up to where the old gate system was, where we could close the park. That was new asphalt, and you can see that's nice now. There were some drainage issues with that, and the guys put a tile system in there that did new asphalt, and that looks great. From that asphalt, though, up to that parking lot and up over the hill and then in front of the aquatic center, that's the area that we're concerned about. And I think Brian mentioned that we had somewhere, I think we have 30,000 in the budget maybe, that Melissa and I had talked about to work with on that, lost funds, I believe. So I had Pelling give us a quote for the parking area, for a quote for up around the curve up to the top of the hill, and then from the top of the hill west to where the asphalt stops, about where the restrooms are on that side. So there's 3 pieces to that, and that's what you've got in that quote. It all comes to around 30,000 in change or something. That's can be in different pieces. Brian, do you want to?
Well, I had it as $30,386.45 for the aquatic work, and I had it at $19,626.30 for the street.
Well, while he was here, I said, okay, we might have some extra money. I'm not sure how all the funding was gonna be distributed with our asphalt streets that we just talked about earlier this evening. And while we're here, let's look at some streets that might be candidates for seal coat. They're good enough yet. They're not pitted out. They don't have big potholes in them that are good and solid yet that we could seal coat them. So we have identified about 7 or 8 different blocks on that one bid sheet. It should be in your packet, that would be candidates for seal coat, to extend the life of those streets. Seal coat extends the life of the street for 3 to 5 years. And in order just to keep those from further deteriorating, let's look at what we might be able to do. I had him do that because they're gonna be in town, and let's just look, I wanna make sure the council's aware of that possibility. Whether or not we go there that's not my objective tonight, but I want everybody to be aware that those are some things that I think could work. I think some of those may have been identified with Garden maybe a few years ago too, when we looked at different things. But that's those, and this, I might add this too. These are streets that I haven't recently talked to any engineers about. There'll be no engineering fee. It'd be just like us going in, like we're patching streets right now. It'd be like, we're gonna go in and we're gonna seal coat this street. Those are some ones, if any of you wanna go take a look at those, I'd be happy to ride around with you. And then, we haven't looked at those yet either, Brian, we just got.
Oh, but, this is a Melissa question. We had 30,000 in lost for the aquatic
Correct.
center area. We had in the street CIP 25. And this shows 19,626 for streets largely on Locust and Sycamore, and then some on Third from Lemon to Orange. I guess my thought would be, if you authorize the seal coating for the street part, to allow the use of up to the full 25,000, So if we find other areas, in addition to this 19,600, we have the ability to use the rest of the funds that were budgeted in the CIP. Just an added question. On the preparation of the streets for seal coating, do you look at those, say with the new pothole patcher, to crack fill what's there as a prelude to it being seal coated?
There could be some spots that we could go ahead with our patcher and fill that. They have a similar method that they use if they came in and did it. For the most part, these 7 or 8 streets that we identified are pretty good. They don't have, they might have a handful of places that need some patchwork ahead of the seal coat, but we could go ahead of that with this patcher. I'm impressed with that thing. We're still working out the operation of it a little bit, but the guys are doing a pretty nice job where we're getting to. So.
Yeah, well, whether it's us, which it would be nice if it could be, or them, going through like that as a prelude to seal coating is a nice preparation, you know, in order to make them last a bit longer.
Sure, and we could easily do that, right? If we have the time, of course, and if this goes forward tonight, and here's the thing that we're working with from a time standpoint. We're high on their list. They're coming, they're starting, I think, in most of this year, I think they're coming this direction. They'll be coming through here with their crew, their equipment, sometime in May. They thought they would start the end of April up north, and we'd be their second stop. So which gives us time to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we'd be happy to do that. There aren't a lot of that. The guys could probably do all of those in a couple of days, real easy.
I would make a motion to use all funds available to repair the street.
All right, so Boots has made the motion to use up to that $25,000 extra for any other streets needed.
Second.
Spear with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, number 12, which is discussion of possible action concerning a one-time water and sewer exemption. 707 West 9th Street, lot 36. This meets all the criteria, so if there are no questions, is there a motion? McNeil with first and Spear with second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
All right, so now to number 13, which is discussion and possible action concerning North Plum Street. Be a temporary weight embargo. Brian? Steve too?
You want to start on this, Brian, or you
Well,
want
just maybe to start, and I'm gonna let you, I know that, very many of you have gotten over to have a look at the street. Steve and I were looking at it Friday, he's looked at it even before that. The winter hasn't been kind to North Plum, north of North Street. There's some major chunks of asphalt that are being, or seal coat being torn out by traffic. As the mayor said, one of the things that can be done is an embargo of traffic above a certain weight in that area. But we were also asking our usual engineer for some cost options on if that street was reconstructed. Do you have those? I've got them if you don't.
Yeah, I was trying to get my printer to work. That's why I was late coming.
Yeah.
If the council would give me a printer, I'd be here on time. Just kidding. I should have had it done earlier today.
Well, it's, you know, the estimates that we had, we were given 4 options for reconstruction. going from most expensive down. For an 8-inch asphalt surface with full curb and gutter, the estimate is just shy of $524,000. 7-inch concrete with full curb and gutter is at just under $475,000. And then we asked, since it's got a rural profile right now, we asked what it would be if similar was done, keeping the rural profile. So 8 inches of asphalt with no curb and gutter, 26 feet wide, would be $360,852. 7 inches of concrete with no curb and gutter, 26 feet wide, would be $358,000. He added a note that the long-term best option, in his opinion, is a 7-inch concrete with curb and gutter. And he goes on to say, as this will eliminate the existing ditches along the driveway, or along with the driveway culverts. Both of the options with curb and gutter include drainable base. So his recommendation would be the one that is just shy of $475,000. It's just that at this point in time, those funds aren't readily available.
How many feet was it 800 feet?
He was estimating 900 feet north of North Street.
And is there any other, do the property owners along there have any skin in the game, so to speak? Is that anything that we can assess, or has the city assessed in the past? And I think I know the answer to that, but I'm looking around to see who's been here longer than Ross.
Yeah. I lived there, North Fourth and Plum Street, North Avenue, or North Street, whatever you call it. And that was the first house built on that side of the road, on the north side, was the house I built. Chuck and Judy Luke Martin live there now. And on north from there was, when we built that house, was a cornfield, because I was out of the city limits, so I could go home at noon and hunt pheasants. But anyway, on farther north is our church's parsonage, and they were promised that road would be blacktop, and it still hasn't been done.
Well,
So that's been a long time ago. That's been 25, 30 years ago.
I remember coming here around 2005, and that's when Plum Street had just finished redoing Plum Street, and I asked at the time, why did we stop right here? Well, at 10th. And they said, well, the people from here on up, since it had never been curb and gutter, we were anticipating that we would assess them the first time pavement, storm sewer, $50 a foot on their frontage. And most of them didn't want that. So they abandoned that idea at the time. I have since heard from 2 or 3 people up there that they, as a result of what's happening now, and I think probably the increased farm traffic and the size of the traffic that's coming into that city right there, that truly is a farm to market road, and it's going to take heavy traffic unless we do something different with it.
It's something that's needed to be done for a long time. I'll just put it that way.
Kathy Dale, I'll bring up her name. She called me. She said, see, we would be willing to get some people together and meet with the city, the council, to have a work session or whatever, and talk about it. And maybe that's a good first step, to see what interest there is on both those, the curb and gutter and as a rural kind of thing.
Well, if I'm looking at it the same way that it was looked at in the past, the $50, if it's 900 feet and you're looking at both sides, I figured that it would raise about 90,000.
Yeah.
So So there, that's quite a bit of money, but on the other hand, there's still quite a bit of money to make up. I got a legal opinion on the embargo part of it, and one of the exemptions to the embargo are implements of husbandry. So farm machinery wouldn't necessarily be embargoed if we set one up. Now, it might affect the semi-traffic that comes in. I'd have to find out more, because if it's used for farming, then does it fall into that? That I just don't know yet. I asked that as a follow-up question and haven't heard the answer yet. The other thing they recommended was if we do an embargo, it be done by resolution. They quoted an Iowa code section saying that the embargo shouldn't be longer than 90 days. So if the type of traffic that we think is doing the most, that's been the most problematical, is exempted, then having an embargo probably doesn't do much. If some of it can be embargoed, and a resolution is the way that we institute it, we might have to ask for a special meeting in order for you to consider doing a resolution for that purpose. Another part of the city ordinance is, and I think it's in the state code too, when you do the embargo signs, you have to post the weight limit. If you don't, then it's not valid, and we looked at that language. But as far as, nothing that we're talking about is gonna happen soon. Is there anything that can be done now? I mean, I think you talked about digging out where the loose areas are and packing them with gravel. Do you wanna talk about that at all?
Yeah, good point. It'd be real nice if the weather warm up and we get a couple inches of nice rain that was warm and settled the ground down, and we could see what we really have to deal with. And we did this a number of years ago where we ended up having to core out, well, more recently just in your intersection up there, Brian. That's the kind of thing that we would look to do, core out a foot of the clay wet that doesn't drain and stays like mud for a long time. Core that out and fill it with rock, about a foot of clean rock, and we'll go from there. We might employ that kind of a procedure if, and like Brian says, we're not gonna be able to reconstruct that street anytime soon. So how are we gonna maintain it for safe travel during the next few months or year, whatever it's gonna take? I would,
Core it out and then do a chip seal.
well, what I think, Tim, eventually what we could do initially is core it out, put gravel back, and pack it, compact it, let that, and then probably have to fill it 2 or 3 times. Once that gets solid, we could then come back and chip seal it to seal it up. That's basically what they do a lot of places.
Been a while, but how many spots are up there now? I only noticed 3 or 4.
Well, there's one big one that kind of covers it, goes clear across the road, and then on the west side, there's, like you say, there's 3 or 4 up along the west side on the curb. Getting back, Ryan, to something you mentioned, I talked to Johnson County this afternoon, because they've got a lot of embargo signs. They embargo everything. All their asphalt roads or chip seal roads in the spring, and I remember hauling grain years ago in Johnson County. You had to call them to make sure you could haul one load at a certain time on a certain route, and it might be 10 or 12 miles out of your way, and which is what we did. I think I'm just throwing this out, I think if we were able to do an embargo, there's other ways that the farmers on the north side of town can get to where they're going without coming down Plum. They might be 2 or 3 miles out of the way, but that's not totally unacceptable in my world. I don't know how that plays out legally here. So I think that's something to entertain. I've got I've got a whole bunch of embargo signs waiting for me in Johnson County right now. So.
I don't know what the road is that heads east from Plum Street, back north out of town, heads east, but if you come to that, it's a T road, and that's Plum, the extension of Plum. They can go north a half a mile and turn back to the west and get on 38, paved road.
So there's options that aren't too far out of the way.
That's right.
I'd like to be able to say what we've got left there, because we're not gonna be able to, I did throw this out to guys too. If push comes to shove, and it really gets destroyed, we could take the maintainer up there and blade the whole thing off and remove everything and make it a gravel road. I mean, that's worst case scenario. But if we have continued heavy duty traffic like that on Plum Street, that's probably gonna be what it could turn into. So, and that's, in a way, I don't want that to seem like a threat to anybody, but that's a possibility, I think.
How many inches can they put down to go out past the jail?
That was only 4 inches, but keep in mind, that road is a really good base. And that's the key to asphalt. If you've got, how long's that road been like that, Tim? It was graded up for asphalt 30 years ago. And so it's been a well-traveled road, good base. Now, 4 inches still isn't gonna last forever out there. There'll be another 2-inch overlay on that someday too. Anyway, those are some issues we're dealing with, and here's the other thing I want everybody to understand. We're not alone in this. Everybody I've talked to, every city in this part of the state, their roads are coming apart. Secondary roads and gravel roads haven't been this bad since back in the 60s.
Nope. Yeah.
Some of us remember that.
They haven't.
So
It's been the worst winter.
we got so much moisture, we got it so deep, and it froze down and moved up and froze back and forth.
Yep.
That pops them up. We did, our guys, this is an interesting thing, our guys did North Avenue with the patcher one day, and we thought that looks a lot better, it's a lot smoother, it's not, maybe we're close to a real street yet. But the next day, we got a huge bubble up there. I go, what in the world happened to that? It blew up about 6 inches. And we saw it before you did, Brian, I'm glad you saw it.
So when we talk about an embargo, and we wanna reroute them over to 30, then are we just directing them right through downtown?
Well, if they went to 38, Pam,
But do we want them right downtown?
no, they don't go downtown, they come down here to 7th Street and they go out.
On 130?
Yeah.
Some of them are gonna go.
Well, and there's some that come through 7th all the way through, from east to west on 7th too. Which is, once again, that's a concrete street, and it's the direct route, and this time of year, it'd be really nice if we could keep the heavy stuff on concrete streets.
Amen.
Because asphalt just is not hard.
So then what are you looking for here, Brian? I think we're just a guidance on this? To look further into the embargo and
Check into it.
You know, one thing we haven't, and I don't know, Brian, you and I haven't even talked about this, but some places they do close streets to through traffic. And I've talked to people about that. You can close it to through traffic, so just the people that live there can go in and out with their cars. And if you do that, though, they tell me that's fine, but you can't find anything to really put teeth in it, you gotta have an embargo. Would the local farmers respect a road closed sign except for through traffic? I don't know. And maybe I shouldn't even.
Well, they're doing that a lot in Muscatine right now.
Are they?
I know that.
I don't know what the legal aspects of that are, that's something we can look into maybe.
Well, I can look more into the specifics of what an embargo would allow, and if there's anything in addition to that, an alternative to that, maybe under another name or another code section or something. I think right now, we're letting you know that we're probably, or at least likely, going to ask for a special meeting between now and your next meeting on the 22nd to see if we can add anything more to what we're telling you tonight.
Something to keep in mind, as long as that's a seal coat, it really should probably be embargoed every year. Because those seal coats just don't hold up to that heavy traffic when that frost is coming. That's what the counties around do, that's why
That's
Johnson
right.
County has all the sign available.
All their seal coat roads are embargoed.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, now we're down to the reports. I don't have anything this week. Council? Committees? City manager? Department heads?
One more thing.
Go.
This is a short one. Clay's got number 16 cab chassis taken off, and he's got the new truck set up for Virgil. So we'd like consensus, I guess, that we can go ahead and sell that cab chassis, set them down there at Public Works or lower shop. It's a great, it's an older one, but it's 4-wheel drive, dually, and literally no rust on it. Yeah, it's a V10. We'll work things out, I get somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000. And we've had so far 9 calls on it, and we haven't even advertised it yet. So if we could put that in the paper and get some bids on it for your consideration next council meeting, that'd be great.
Do it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brian? Or Adam?
Trying to race up here, Steve, beat me to it. Okay. This is a bid for the park to spray. So, I put this out to another business, and I was informed Saturday afternoon, I called Brian, that they refused to bid. So, I'm not gonna talk about the discussion on the phone, but he basically said that I'm not going to put a bid in. So, otherwise we would have this on the agenda. So, while we're waiting on that, so we'll put it to the April 22nd. So, this is, if you remember correctly, Floyd helped me out with the aerial view of spraying around the park to cut down on trimming and stuff. I gave that to Chalice, and I gave that to other ones, and this is what we came to. So, so I just want to give it to you. Otherwise, it would be on the agenda, but it was in a rush too. But you look it over. I'm not sure.
I guess the idea, well, he's already said it, is to have your consensus that we can proceed with this and then get it approved officially at the next meeting.
Don't want to wait too long, just not spray, especially when it starts getting warmer outside and everything. Good?
Good.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
I think you guys are kind of overdue for an update on water and sewer projects. It's been kind of a long meeting. I'll give you one now if you want, or we could wait till next meeting.
We're good.
Go ahead. So the Sager system is in design phase. We got some flags set down there around the west lagoons, and also where the gravity main extension behind Custom Builders. There's some stakes set. Terracon is going to be coming for soil borings probably this week. But other than that, it's in design phase. We meet with McClure Engineering on another subject here this Friday, and also we're going to look at some manholes while they're in town. Lining project for this summer. I know you're hopeful for a lining project. It is waiting for televising. Televising was waiting for winter to break, and it did, and then we've had trouble getting our contractor in. They scheduled us for middle of March, so we kind of X'd them off. We called a different contractor. They're going to be here Thursday. So we'll get some televising done, just about 4 blocks is all. And so that would be for we had hoped for a $40,000 lining project. It might be a little higher than that, but we'll see what the proposal comes back at. And then also there's another proposal, the Census Tract 2 CDBG project, we're calling it. That's in the northern part of town. Veenstra and Kim is going to do a proposal for us for that. We're hopeful for a CDBG grant application to be put in by July 1st, and with hopefully approval after that. That would be match funds where we would put 300,000 with the grant, 300,000, have a $600,000 project. We've got a lot of ideas in that census tract too. There's more than $600,000 worth of work up there. So we're gonna have to decide. There's a lot of sewer manholes need work. There's at least 8 blocks of sewer that needs lined. There's the water main on North Avenue we could include in that. There's the interceptor sewer line that we're kind of proposing for 13th Street. Which will take a lot of hydraulic pressure off the north part of town. Love to do all 4 of those, but we're talking probably over $1 million for all of that. So we're gonna have to decide at some point what to do. A lot of that will probably depend on the proposal from the engineers, what they think we should do.
That's why lining is more, the more you can line, the better off you are.
Right.
All right,
That's in a nutshell kind of where we're at.
thank you, Brian.
Thanks,
One
sir.
more thing about that.
Sorry.
For the CDBG, for the Census Tract 2 project, they were wanting more information for the manholes. They were wanting pictures. We went out, we opened 63 manholes in that area of town, took 330 some pictures. We just got that information to them probably within 7-10 days ago. So we were kind of holding them up. Now the ball's back in there. That's where we like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so now we are to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Anderson with the first and Booth with the second.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McMahon?
We are adjourned.
We're a mess.